Unless you are consistently a very detailed plotter, chances are at some point you have reached a point in a first draft where you've had to stop and think, what happens next? You may know how your story ends, or maybe you even know what's going to happen 10 scenes down the road, but sometimes you reach a point where you just don't know what happens in the next scene. This is something that kills my groove in first drafts. I'll be riding along, cruising through scenes, and then wham! I don't know what happens next and I lose my momentum. So what can you do when this happens to you? One of my favorite pieces of advice for what to do when you don't know what to write is do something terrible to your character. Bonus points if your main character somehow causes this something terrible. This is great because if you do something horrible to your characters, then you have to find a way to get them out of that situation, so that will give you a few scenes, a little bit of material to work with. You can also write a scene that does one of three things: builds the world, develops the characters, or gives the readers new info. You know the whole "can't see the forest for the trees" phrase? When I'm writing first drafts, I very much can only see the forest. I'm so focused with moving the plot along and getting to the next major point that sometimes I forget some of the smaller things that I should be doing along the way. So when I reach a point where I don't know what to write, it's a good opportunity for me to say, oh, you know what, I haven't really developed the magic system in this world well enough. I should have something happen to my characters that displays how magic works. Or I really want to reinforce that being overly confident is my character's flaw, so let me write a scene that will show how that can get them into trouble sometimes. I also suggest when you reach a point like this to do a little bit of brainstorming about some things that could happen to your characters. Think about what roadblocks or conflicts could get in the way of your character's goals and motivations, and just write down a list of things that could possibly happen. You won't use all of them, but you may use some of them. For example, this happened to me about a month ago with my current manuscript. My characters are traveling a lot, so when I thought about what are some things that could get in their way, I started thinking about weather that could happen. Maybe it could snow and that would slow them down, or one of them could get sick, or they could run into some bandits. I just started thinking about things that could possibly get in the way of their journey. The last tip I have for you when you get stuck isn't something that I use very often because it just isn't the best strategy for me, but I know it works for a lot of people, is to maybe skip to a different part of the story. A lot of times when this happens to me, it's because I've just gotten to one major plot point, say it's point C. I know where point D is in 10 scenes, but I don't know what will happen in between. So you could just skip to point D and write that part, and that might help you figure out what your characters need to be doing in the meantime to get them to that point. Honestly, it happens to me a lot because my original outline for a book is usually pretty bare bones and just has some major points, and so I usually get to a spot where I have to kind of figure out what's going to happen next. Does that happen to any of you too, or are you just really good at plotting beforehand, or you're just amazing at pantsing and you don't need any idea of what to do next? Hopefully I'm not alone, and if I'm not, give me some other tips of things you have done in that situation. And that's all that I've got for you guys today. Don't forget that we will have a video on the official NaNoWriMo YouTube channel this Wednesday, just like we will every Wednesday this month. And we will be having another camp-themed live chat this Sunday at 7:30 Eastern Time. Until then, Word Nerds!